I welcome the opportunity to bring this debate to the Chamber and thank colleagues from across the political divide for supporting my motion. At its heart, this debate asks whether the voices of rural Scotland still matter in the national decisions that shape our landscape, livelihoods and future. Across rural Scotland, from the Highlands to the south of Scotland, communities face growing uncertainty. Yet another wave of energy infrastructure has arrived at pace and scale that was never properly planned, clearly explained or meaningfully discussed with those expected to live beside it for generations. This is a consequence of a government pursuing energy expansion without building the democratic foundations required to support it. The Scottish Conservatives, like our rural constituents, recognise that Scotland needs energy infrastructure. They are not anti-development or anti-renewables, but they are pro-fairness, pro-transparency and pro-democracy. But today they see a system failing on all three counts. Nowhere is this clearer than in Galloway. My constituency has hosted extensive energy infrastructure for decades. We've got Windy Standard, Scotland's first consented onshore wind farm, Robin Rig, Scotland's first offshore wind farm, and the Galloway Hydro Scheme, the country's first major integrated hydro scheme and one of the world's earliest all-river systems, still producing power nearly a century later. Galloway has powered Scotland for generations, but recent years have brought something entirely different, not strategic modernisation, but a disjointed surge of proposals arriving simultaneously and assessed in isolation. Residents now face multiple wind farm applications, large-scale battery storage compounds, solar farms, new substation, construction traffic disruption, damaging to our roads and miles of monster pylons and cables. This is not abstract. This reshapes the place where people live, work and raise families, yet communities feel they've had little meaningful say. A clear example is the Kendune to Tungland power line upgrade. Initially presented as a straightforward modernisation, it evolved through several iterations, changing scale, route and justification. SPEN rejected undergrounding in the most visual sensitive areas, and although the independent reporter recommended refusal, the Scottish Government approved it regardless. For some, the process became so opaque that they sought judicial review, simply to have their voices heard. Presiding Officer, that should be a warning. When ordinary citizens feel their only remaining avenue is the courts, it reveals not just planning failure, but democratic failure. Galloway is not alone. In the Highlands, the Highland Convention has brought together community councils representing tens of thousands of people who feel overwhelmed by cumulative impacts and ignored by the planning system. They unite around a simple message: rural communities are being treated as passive observers, not active partners. Inspired by that movement, the South of Scotland Convention is now emerging. Community councils across the borders, and shortly Dumfries and Galloway, have joined forces. These communities are calling, respectively and democratically, for a moratorium on new large-scale energy infrastructures until such a strategy is published. And I join them in that call. This is not about being obstructive or NIMBYism, it's responsible citizenship. People are saying, we will engage, we will play our part, but we cannot support limitless development with no clear endpoint, no assurances of fairness and no understanding of where the burden will fall next. Yet the Government relies on planning frameworks that many find inaccessible and unbalanced. Section 36 of the Electricity Act is repeatedly cited as a barrier to genuine local influence. It centralises decision-making, reduces the weight of local authority views and creates the perception that once a project has reached a certain size, community sentiment becomes a procedural tick box. And now we have the Scottish Government blocking constituents from objecting by email. Local authorities themselves are overwhelmed by numerous complex applications. They lack staff, specialist expertise and the time required for rigorous scrutiny. Communities face thousands of pages of environmental assessments and technical documents, often with only weeks to respond. Many residents feel consultations are not genuine exercises in listening, but performances carried out because the rules require them. When people are spoken at, rather than spoken with, trust collapses. Trust matters. It's the foundation of any major national transition. If we want communities to host infrastructure, they must be treated as partners, not obstacles, and from the outset. It's part and parcel of a just transition. Scotland urgently needs a clear national energy strategy, not another brochure of high-level ambitions. A real plan with maps, limits, sequencing and transparent reasoning. A plan that answers the questions rural communities have been asking for years. How much infrastructure does Scotland actually need? Where should it go? Where should it not go? What protections will prevent over-concentration in particular regions? How will cumulative impacts be honestly assessed? How will benefits be fairly distributed? Until these questions are answered, calls for moratoriums are entirely justified. Groups in Galloway, the Hands Off Our Hills, Galloway Against Pylons and the Glen Gap Community Group, along with dedicated individuals such as Paul Swift and Elaine and Trevor Proctor, have shown remarkable leadership and professionalism. They've informed neighbours, analysed proposals and built constructive, evidence-based campaigns. Their voices should be valued, not sidelined. Presiding Officer, this debate is ultimately about democracy. It's about whether rural Scotland's voice carries the same weight as urban Scotland's interests. It's about whether governments see rural communities as partners or just as places. Places where decisions can be imposed because the population is dispersed and political cost is low. We can have a strong energy future. We can expand infrastructure responsibly, but we cannot do it credibly unless the people who host the infrastructure are respected, included and empowered right from the start. So let me be clear. The people of Galloway are not standing in the way of Scotland's future. They are standing up for their own. They are demanding fairness, proportional and fair planning system that recognises the cumulative burden they already carry. They are asking for balance, not endless expansion, and partnership, not imposition. And those in Galloway who feel unheard, overlooked or simply exhausted by their constant onslaught of proposals, your concerns are legitimate. You're right to demand clarity. You're right to demand limits. You're absolutely right to insist that your voices are heard on future development in our region. Galloway has already powered Scotland for nearly a century. No one can be accused Galloway of not doing its bit. We will continue to play its part in Scotland's energy future, but we will no longer accept being treated as Scotland's energy dumping ground. Scotland's new government must bring an end to the era of limitless, uncoordinated development. Until then, rural Scotland will keep pushing back, and rightly so. The people of Galloway and the rest of rural Scotland deserve fairness, respect and the right to shape the future of a place they call home. And I will continue to stand with them and speak for them every step of the way.